Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I am your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. But as we all know, I do not do this program by myself.
No, my name is Mike Piworski. I come to you live from the East Coast, coast with the most, from the co-host with the most here on The Rundown. 2A views, conservative news. We got it for you, Craig. Do you know what day it is?
Mike. Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is?
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
It's hump day.
Hump day.
It's hump day.
Hump day.
That's right, folks. It is hump day. This is the day of the week where we attempt to begin the weekend. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we do not. But hey, it's all in the trying. So Mike, I know it's already 5 p.m. there, so the work day is largely done. How's the beginning of your weekend going? Or is it?
I don't know if you can see it, Craig. My face is kind of red. I've been out cutting the grass, got a couple free hours, and came in here and was because your studio is not real bright, folks. You sit under some lights, but they're not real bright, so I can't see. So I rub my eyes, I look at the camera, I'm all red. So I'm having a good day. I started my weekend chores on Wednesday, so we're good.
Well, I myself am in the middle of doing kind of a two-a-days. So I'm working part of the day. I'm doing like work, stuff that actually pays, and then I'm also working on this film. And that's a whole nother work day. So if I look tired and run down a little bit, it's because, like I said, I'm doubling up. But having said that, the weekend is probably not going to start for me until Friday evening at that.
Oh, that's weak. You got to do better than that.
I know, man. But it is what it is. That's kind of just the time that I'm dealing with right now.
Right. Yeah. No, I got you. You got to you got to feed the beast. You got to feed that demon. Get out there, do that acting, do your thing, man. Get it done.
So
we want to.
I
want to see you so famous that Will Smith slaps you on stage.
There you go. Yeah, that would be nice. That would be okay. I would not want to be slapped by Will Smith, but if you're going to be slapped on national TV, why not Will Smith?
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Might as well be someone famous. But we're working on this film called Confessions of an Alcoholic Hitman. It'll be fun.
I know. I know what it is. Tell the folks. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Dude, it's going to be. It is actually a very, very funny film. Can't wait for it to come out. It is what we call a low budget, no budget, which means not a lot of resources have gone into it except for the expertise of the people who are doing it. But very well done script, lots of really good actors. It is hilarious. So we'll let you know. We'll let you know when it finally becomes available for public consumption.
There you go. Good for you. Good for us. Good for them.
Now, Mike, before we go forward, why don't we go ahead and give folks a quick shout out to our sponsors?
We shall. Let's do that. Let's talk about our good friends over at Hitman Industries. That's hitmanindustries.net, hitmanindustries.net. If you need a barrel for your project, for your firearm project, these are the people to see. Make sure you check them out, hitmanindustries.net. The California Republican Assembly, fighting the good fight behind enemy lines, trying to keep up a brave face. Keep doing it, folks. And then, of course, if you want some web gear, some tactical gear, you go to uscombatgear.com.
That's right, folks. These are the folks who make it possible for us to come to you every day. So do us a favor. The link to their websites are in the description of this video. Go check them out. If you like what you see, spend some money with them, and let them know that the guys over at The Rundown sent you. Also, encourage your friends to do the same, by the way. Encourage them to listen. Encourage them to like, encourage them to share. Let them know that there's tons of different ways where they can partake of the program. Whether they want to watch us on YouTube or Facebook or Rumble, or watch us on, actually available on Twitter as well. They can also watch us on Spotify or listen to us because, wherever you get your podcasts, you can find The Rundown. That's iHeartRadio, Apple iTunes, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, you can find The Rundown. So the point is, join us and have a good time.
Come on down. Join the rest of the party.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let's go ahead and get into today's news. All right. The first story we have here, well, it's funny to me because, at a time when you've seen a lot of fake news, right? And you've seen the media go out of their way, it appears, to not report on stuff or to report on stuff. All of a sudden, you're starting to see, where they talked a lot about how the Hunter Biden laptop was, it wasn't real, it wasn't this, it wasn't that, it was fake news, it was Russian disinformation. And now we're finding out that, one of the reasons why they were telling us that was because the FBI was, and the Department of Justice was all up in the middle of this investigation, trying to make sure that there wasn't an investigation, as well as, in certain cases, attempting to dissuade the media from reporting on the story. Well, there's a new little tidbit about that whole thing, and that has to do with a top FBI agent who was basically part of shielding the laptop from being reported, right? From being investigated or anything like that. There was a top FBI agent who has recently resigned after being, after being outed for his involvement in this whole thing. His name is Tim Thibault, not Tim Tebow, but Tim Tebow. He was the FBI Assistant Special Agent in charge. Now, apparently, he's the guy who was basically accused of mishandling the laptop or trying to make sure that the laptop didn't get investigated. And now that he has been outed, he has been escorted out of the FBI. Now, Mike, I don't know if they haven't said that the two are related, right? But I'm wondering if this is, number one, because he did something improper and they are disciplining him because he did something improper, or if, number two, the fact that he will no longer be employed at the FBI means it's going to be a lot harder for them for Congress to subpoena him in order to talk to him about what exactly his role was in this whole cover-up. And I feel comfortable now calling it a cover-up.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Craig, he's gone from the building because they had to get him gone from the building. He's got too much heat on him now. People know who he is. He's got 25 years, so he's eligible for his retirement. You notice in there it said he resigned, Craig. It didn't say anything about he retired. Didn't say anything about he's left the agency. He's just been escorted from the building. I guarantee you, a guy with 25 years like that, who's working in the Beltway up there, has probably got something like a year or 2 years worth of leave time saved up, of vacation time. So this is the deal they've made him is, listen, Tebow, you too hot right now. Your name's in the papers. We got to get you out of here. We don't need anybody walking through here with a subpoena from the Supreme Court or anything like that. So we're going to make it public that you're gone, so nobody else comes in here around our business. And he's probably sitting at home in his second or third house enjoying some margaritas or some mojitos or something, collecting that full government paycheck, because I guarantee you, like I said, he's just been squirreled away for a good 2-3 years until his retirement or his leave runs out. And if it happens to work out for him, then they'll bring him back. Otherwise, they'll let him retire. But this is just to get him out of here now because he's too hot to be around us.
Well, and yeah, so once again, just so you folks know, there's a difference between if someone is an actual government employee, it's easier to compel them to come and testify before Congress than if they are just if they are a former government employee or if they are just some schmo off the street. Now, You can always, though, do what the Democrats did and hold them in contempt of Congress and actually send agents to arrest them and put them in jail for contempt of Congress. But by the way, that was something that had not been done before Democrats decided to do that to Trump supporters or people who worked with President Donald Trump.
Exactly. Telling you, it swings both ways. Watch out. It's coming back at you there, demos.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, and this guy he may be a Politico, but he's also a career agent. So I'm going to suspect in particular that if he was given orders to do this, if he's facing jail time, I'm going to bet he's going to come back and testify against whoever told him to do this.
Yeah, which is why you got to go. You got to go home. You got to go somewhere with no cell phones, no nothing. You got to go.
Oh yeah, they will likely they will do whatever they can to buy him off. And once again, the question then is going to come down to: are Republicans going to do the exact same thing to Biden supporters that they have done that the Biden administration has done to Trump supporters?
We've talked about this many times. Trump did not do it after getting elected. We all heard him say that you'd be in jail to Hillary Clinton, and they decided not to do it to keep the peace in the country. Not this time. I don't think so. I think this time it's, you want to play hardball? Well, let me show you where we stick the bat.
Right. Well, then you'll see all sorts of media stories about, political retribution, yada, yada, yada. Yep. But I'm like,
okay,
you guys,
no problem.
You guys opened the door.
Yeah, no problem. Oh, and by the way, we're coming to arrest you for treason and sedition, you newspapers, on the way.
Oh yeah, well, exactly, because what you have is, and what we're finding more and more, we now know that it's the case with the Biden laptop. We know that it's the case now with COVID disinformation, that you have the administration actually pressuring media and social media to push a narrative or to suppress a narrative or stories.
Yep.
And once you have that sort of pressuring by government on private business, and private businesses complying, that is fascism. That is the beginning of fascism, and that is not something that should be tolerated in these free United States.
Yeah, and I don't think it's just the government pressuring these news sources, the newspapers, and places like that. They were on that train a long time before.
Oh yeah. Well, like I said,
they are more than willingly putting out bad information.
Like I want to encourage you guys. I know you may or may not listen to Joe Rogan. You can listen to his podcast on Spotify for free. You can sign up for free. But Alex Berenson, who interviewed last week, listen to the sorts of stuff that he got in Discovery from, or maybe just go to his Substack. But he's releasing documents and emails and whatnot that he got when he did his discovery, and the people in the Biden administration flat out were pressuring Twitter to remove him because he didn't comply with their narrative on COVID. So that is just, once again, just another example, not just the Hunter Biden laptop, but also their response on COVID. But anyway, that's something worth checking out.
Yep.
All right. Okay. This next story is kind of interesting because we all know that, well, because of New York Rifle and Pistol v. Bruin, that supposedly now in New York State, you're supposed to be able to get a license to carry a firearm. You're supposed to be able to conceal carry. It's now supposedly a constitutional right. Well, in New York City, not so much, because there's now trucks. Now these are the New York City Department of Transportation trucks. And they are driving around and they are pulling signs that are saying that that Times Square is a gun-free zone, and that even if you have a concealed carry permit, you're not allowed to carry there. And I'll play the video here for you. It's a real short one where you can actually hear, and the guy will tell you what's going on.
Here are these DOT trucks that are going around Times Square here, reminding people about the carry laws. To see Times Square, gun-free zone, licensed gun carriers and others may not enter with a gun unless otherwise specially authorized. Otherwise, it's a felony. So these are the trucks that have been going around Times Square.
All right, so now my question is this. Number one, how exactly do they plan on enforcing this?
Oh, remember, it's a stop, talk, and frisk, right? Remember, that's what Mayor Adams has with his new anti-gun task force. Remember, they used to have the plainclothes officers. Now they have them all marked up in their gear, and they're out doing stop, talk, and frisk, looking for people with firearms. They don't care if it's a legally owned firearm. They don't care if it's a legally processed concealed carry firearm. They've made it clear that it's a gun-free zone. So you, the person that just went out and got your application, had your firearm, and be waiting 12 years for this decision to come out of the Supreme Court, we're going to treat you the same as the gangbanger that's carrying a gun. The good news, Craig, though, is if they get arrested for having a gun, they'll be out in an hour or two.
Well, no. Well, yes. Here's what I'll say. I'll probably yes and no, because if the only issue that you have is being a concealed is having a concealed firearm and you're otherwise a law-abiding citizen, they're probably going to throw the book at you. But if you happen to be a drug dealer or you happen to be involved in a smash and grab or something like that, then those folks are likely going to just be, once again, arrested and released. Because remember, law-abiding citizens are criminals. Criminals are victims.
That's right. Exactly right. All the comments in this section as well, they talk about, okay, so do you think the bad guys are going to read these signs? How come we've never enforced these rules on the bad guys before? That kind of stuff. It's, they're worried about people leveling the playing field. And I'm not talking about, standing on the line toe to toe and we shoot each other. Listen, we've seen it happen every place this has gone on. Once good guys are able to carry firearms without a lot of the legal hurdles, a crime rate just drops. It really does, because the bad guys are like, I'm not looking for a gunfight. I'm looking for money. Okay.
Right. The point that the reason why they have a gun is not because they want, you're right. Not because they want to engage in a gunfight. They want to intimidate somebody or have control over somebody because they have superior firepower. And when they realize there's a good chance that they don't, not so much. They want to go someplace where their odds are better.
Yes. And lions don't attack tigers. Okay,
Exactly
the way it works.
Exactly. All right, now here in California, there's a new story out. This was actually a poll that was done. It's something that's being reported in The Guardian, and this has to do with teachers here in Los Angeles, California. Well, not here because I'm not in Los Angeles, but in Los Angeles, there's a story right now where you have nearly 70% of teachers. Think about that. 70% of teachers in Los Angeles are seriously considering quitting their job, meaning they don't want to be teachers no more. I'm like, how crazy is that, Mike? Where you have 70% of teachers who are basically saying, yeah, about that, I'm really not interested in being a teacher any longer. So how about you, how about I go do something else? Now, mind you, Mike, this is at a time where every place in the country is experiencing a teacher shortage, and no place more so than the state of California and in Los Angeles. Now, the other thing is, the first thing that people are going to look at is they're going to say, oh, well, teacher pay. Well, these are some of the highest paid teachers in the world. On average in California, teachers are paid about $84,000 a year. That's between the most experienced and the least experienced. In LA, it's a lot more than that. And yet and still, they're still considering leaving the profession.
Yeah, Craig, first off, when I see a story from The Guardian, I'm always concerned, what's their real point? Because they're very rarely, right up front to it. You look at the title of this, and I'm a little concerned about the title, right? It says they seriously considered leaving. Seriously considered. How do you poll that, Craig? How do you poll seriously considering? I've seriously considered living on the moon. It didn't work out for me. I'm still here, but I seriously considered. It sounds like a number that I want to put out, but I need people to back it up. So I'm going to seriously consider doing a poll like that. It talks about how the cost of living in Los Angeles is so high. And I think this is one of the key problems here, right? It does cost. I think it said it was $4,600 a month is the average rent there in Los Angeles. So that is ridiculous. That's the problem. You're right. The salary's not. I pulled up the pay scale for teachers with regular credentials there in Los Angeles. Walking in the door, first day on the job, you're making $56,000. And then as you go up and you top out right at $89,000. And then when you get your little bonuses and everything else like that, you are talking, Craig, close to $100,000 as well. So yeah, it's not the salary there, which leads me to believe if it's let's say it's not the housing, because people can conquer the housing, right, Craig? I'll just live it a little bit further away and drive in. I'll take care of that. But it has to be the district, right? It has to be the employer. What could possibly be going on in the district there, in this unified school district, that is making 70% seriously consider wanting to move out? That's what I want to know. Can you tell us anything about that?
Well, here's what I will tell you is that pretty much the union, the teachers union in particular, runs Los Angeles Unified. They've elected the overwhelming majority of their school board members. And by the way, their school board members, it's like a full-time job, right? It's literally being a school board member in Los Angeles is a full-time job. And they're run by the teachers union. So my question to the teachers union members, right? The teachers, these 70% who seriously considered leaving, why are you, the things that are happening are the direct result of the people you put there. Yeah. So maybe you should be rethinking the sort of people that you are electing, that you are financially supporting to run for the school board. And once again, a lot of it has to do with policies. It has to do with things you are doing, that the district is doing to interfere with their ability to be able to provide a quality education to their students. That is the major issue that I think most of these teachers are dealing with.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That's where I was going with this, folks. It's what they're being forced to do, what they're being forced to teach, and what they're being threatened with if they don't. So that's what's giving them the seriously considering, leaving that job.
Well, and also consider, Mike, Los Angeles Unified is huge. I mean, yeah. It covers multiple cities. It covers a huge swath of Los Angeles County. The truth is, it ought to be broken up into different school districts in different communities, because you have some communities that are where, it's a whole town or a whole city. They ought to have their own school district. But the problem is that there's a political power that the teachers union has that they don't want to give up, right?
Right.
They have control over so much, and there's such a big beast that that power doesn't just affect that school district, it affects the city and county of Los Angeles, and even policymakers at the state level. Remember this, it wasn't until LA Unified said, no, we're staying closed, our schools are staying closed. It was when the teachers union said, we're not coming back because of COVID, that then the state said, okay, we're going to keep schools closed. That's what did it. That's what made a bunch of other groups comply and say, oh yeah, no, we're not going to do it. That was the kind of the impetus that pushed it all over. So, and they were the ones who negotiated billions of dollars that would eventually wind up going back to teachers in many cases, back to the unions, in order for them to then agree, okay, we'll come back half time.
Yeah. It's the power they yield is because it's been granted to them, right? Because this is what they've wanted to see, and they're going to let them continue to get away with it. But you've elected this. We say elections have consequences. Mm-hmm. Folks in Los Angeles, you've elected these school board members, so this is what you get. Like Craig said, you're paying them the most probably anywhere in the state, and they're still complaining. Well, and you listen, you really do need to do something about your inflation rate and your housing rate down there.
Right.
But you've all of this. You brought on yourself.
Those
you really
are the
have.
Policymakers you put in place. You are 100% correct. Yep. And what's funny is you get folks and they wind up leaving complaining, I can't afford to live here. I can't afford to do this. I'm like, well then, and then they go someplace where they can't afford it, and then they try to elect the same exact people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Idiotic. It is 100% idiotic, folks.
Yep.
Take, for example, we talked the other day about California's new ban on gas-powered vehicles. Well, an interesting thing happened on the way to the Virginia State House. And it has a lot to do with California, believe it or not. So California now has officially banned by 2035 the sale of any new gas-powered vehicles by 2035. And we've also set some requirements between now and then. But Mike, here's the crazy thing. So in 2021, former black-faced governor, you might remember him, Ralph Northam, signed into law a bill that actually made Virginia's emission standards, it tied them to California's. So now that California has put these rules and regulations in place, now mind you, these are not rules and regulations that have been supported or voted on by Californians. This is a rule that was put in, or even by California electeds. It was by the Air Resources Board, part of an executive order from the governor, right? No laws have been passed. And now that law is now affecting the state of Virginia. Virginia will now be tied to having to get rid of new gas-powered vehicles because of what's going on in California.
Yeah, that's what their law says. Their law says, well, Virginia will, hereby, as of this date, abide by California emission standards. Well, do the math, folks. In California, if they say 0 emission standards because all electric vehicles, well, then that's what the law in California is now. And that's Northam, and he's gone. We know that. We saw him lose his job. Well, now the current governor said, listen, we're going to work our butts off. We're going to get this repealed. He said, we will not. He said, Virginians will not be abiding by laws that were made by unelected Californians.
And, well, like I said, what is really funny about this whole thing is Virginia used to be conservative, then became kind of purple, and then for a very short period of time went blue, like blue. And that's when Northam got elected, and they took over the legislature, and they passed a bunch of anti-gun stuff, a bunch of environmental crap. Like basically, they started to become Californicated because of all the D.C. folks who work in D.C., work for liberal politicians, or interest groups, and live then in Virginia. So they've had this Californication. Now that has been reversed. And they're going to hopefully undo some of this stuff, and hopefully the people there in Virginia will wake up to reality. But that's just odd that something that happens in California once again, unelected bureaucrats in California put in rules placed that is affecting the state of Virginia. If that is not bizarre, I don't know what is.
Listen, that's the mind of the Democrat, right? That's their globalization policy. That's what they try to do. Make it all the same and all equal across the board, and we'll just hold hands and there'll be no oil. And that's what they were trying to do. That's what Northam tried to do, is assimilate himself into California. Now, listen, we know that's just the politicians there. We've seen, we've done stories here about the western states in the little panhandle there, the western counties of Virginia be so fed up what's going on in the capital that they've said, well, we're going to secede and go become part of West Virginia. And just so happens that West Virginia's state constitution allows for that, because that's how they came to exist in the first place. So a little bit of wake up there. But yeah, this is clearly, again, you've got Democrats trying for that global policy, one rule for everybody. Let's get everybody on board. Yep. And now, thankfully, Republican leadership in Virginia should be putting this down.
Exactly. And that, by the way, brings us to our parting shot. Because for those of you who do not own electric vehicles, there's one thing that they don't really tell you when you buy them. And that is, there's one part in an electric vehicle that is very, 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 very expensive to replace when it eventually goes out. So if you purchase your electric vehicle brand new, and this part goes out, it's gonna, well, here we go. I'll just show you. So for those of you who are just listening, it's a mechanic talking to a guy who has passed out. His electric vehicle is up on is up in the air, and it says your electric car needs a battery. That'll be $15,000. Now, Mike, you can get a pretty decent used car for $15,000 in the state of California. So the idea of paying that amount of money for a battery, now, they're not that expensive for at least the older cars, but yeah, for the newer cars, they can be upwards of $28,000 for a new electric battery. It is beyond crazy. And now, once again, they're talking about mandating these things.
Yep. Yeah, there's a picture going around recently. It's a copy of a receipt from some car dealership, and I don't remember what car it was. I think it might have been a Honda, from what I recall, but they had to get their battery replaced on their hybrid, and they went in, and it said, oh, it was like oil change $40,
Yep.
a new battery 27,000 or something like.
Yes.
Something
Well,
like that.
between the labor and the actual battery, the battery itself was like $19,000, and
Right.
the labor was then another $8,000.
Yes.
Once again, you can buy a pretty decent used car for $27,000.
Oh yeah. You can buy a new car. There's plenty of new cars between the 18,000 and 30,000 range. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But you know what, Mike? I came across an explanation as to why they're pushing for electric vehicles, and
Goody! I can't wait to see this. Yeah.
it makes about as much sense as I can think of. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I am a conspiracy connoisseur, and this is among one of the better ones. So what it reads here is it says California bans the sale of gas cars after 2035. I get it. EVs aren't powerful enough to pull a U-Haul, so you are trapped here.
It's a trap.
It's a trap. Well, I will tell
That's
you,
funny.
it'd be
That's
interesting because, you know, the new Ford F-150 is out, and those are supposed to be pretty darn powerful. I know that GMC has a electric truck or electric vehicle. Now, their Hummer, while they retail for somewhere between 80 to 100,000, in actual practice, they're so rare, they're having such a hard time finding them that people are buying them and reselling them for like over 300 grand.
Yeah.
So
no, it's true. It's absolutely true.
If you can afford one, then you can afford to not live in California. Most definitely.
It's, you know, it really is. Listen, even the part about the U-Hauls is right. Pulling a U-Haul, the F-150, they recently they had a contest between them. It was their regular, the new F-150 EV versus a regular. I don't know if they used a regular Ford or they used a Chevy or something along those lines. But it was in Colorado, and they were looking to go from like Denver to Colorado Springs to prove a test. And they hooked these two trucks up to trailers. Now, the trucks without the trailers, the Ford with the electric vehicle kind of came close to its destination charge. But as soon as they put a standard little U-Haul on the back of it, it dropped it by like to 1/4 of its value, Craig. So if it had a 200-mile range, as soon as they put that trailer on it, it dropped to about 50 miles. And they were screwed because the charging stations were over 50 miles away. They had to call somebody to come bring them some power.
Well, you know, Mike, and that's one of the issues with some of these electric vehicles is there's a reason why you look at them and you're like, why does that car, I mean, why can't you take a nice car design and then just put that body on an electric vehicle so it at least looks decent, right? Well, that's because so much goes into the wheels and the body shape and the aerodynamics in order for that thing to be able to get so many miles per charge. Once you start adding things extra like a trailer, all of a sudden, dramatically, the efficiency, in this case, the electrical efficiency of those vehicles decreases. And that's why this whole rule, this thing that they're pushing is so asinine, because we are not remotely ready to handle fully electric, all electric cars. We're not. We're just not. But
listen, we might get away with those little 2-door, 4-door specs, that are just for people movers and they're moving about the city. That might work. But listen, more than half the vehicles in this country are trucks or SUVs. Right. And the first time you say, listen, here's our top dog of truck in an EV model, and it gets 1/4 of the performance, now you failed. Go back. Go back to the drawing board.
Bail.
Yep.
Most definitely. Well, hey, Mike, that's going to be it for the show. But before we go, we need to have another shout out to our sponsors.
Let's say goodbye, and you should say hello to our good friends at hitmanindustries.net, hitmanindustries.net. If you've got yourself an AR in the past 5 years, odds are pretty good you got their barrel. Now you can go out and get one for yourself and make your own builds. Of course, let's say hello to the California Republican Assembly and all the good fight they're doing behind enemy lines. And for the best tactical gear around, go to uscombatgear.com.
That's right, uscombatgear.com. Check them out. Folks, all of our sponsors, the links to their websites are in the description to our video or podcast, however you are partaking. Go there, check them out. If you like what you see, spend some money with them and tell them that the guys over at The Rundown sent you. That is going to be it for today's program. We very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and encouraging your friends to do the same. We will see you again tomorrow on Thirsty Thursday. So we hope you enjoy the rest of your hump day.
Hump day.